Good evening. Welcome to my presentation on being a change agent. Let's begin. First of all, I think it's important that we define what change is. Looking at the dictionary, change can mean many different things. One of them is to make a difference in some particular way, to give a different position, course, or direction to something, to undergo a transformation, a transition, or a substitution, and finally, and most importantly, to become different. So change can be within ourselves, or change can happen around us by our actions. So let's talk about change and take it a step further and talk about why change is important. Change is important because it is your way of addressing your own issues and your way of addressing the issues that you see around you. It is why change is important. Change is important because people change, cultures change, nations change, societies change, and so must we. The way we do things, the way we live our lives, the way we interact with people, the projects we do at work, all those things are affected by people that are driving this important change. The world itself is changing. Just ask somebody who is past the age of 60 to talk to you about how the world was 30, 40, 50 years ago, and you will immediately notice that the world is undergoing substantial change. We're becoming a global economy. We're becoming we're coming closer together through the internet and through instant communication and cell phones, and the generations that keep coming forward have different expectations and different values. So the world is changing, and that's a major factor. And then lastly, change is a cycle. If you've ever heard history repeats itself, well, it does. So this tells us that the world is undergoing a constant change. So if we are to be change agents, we have to be ready for change. It's going to happen. It's part of how the world works. Historically, people, the world, everything changes. So let's talk about being a change agent. Well, being a change agent is the role that you take on to enact change. Who can be a change agent? Well, it turns out anybody can be a change agent. You can be a change agent. I can be a change agent. Everyone can be a change agent. It's just a matter of setting a mindset and a purpose and driving that purpose forward towards change. It could be change. You could be a change agent in your personal life. You could be a change agent in your family, in your church, in your community, in your organization. It is limitless. It's just a matter of having the mindset to enact change. And I found this great tidbit on a book about being a change agent, and it's called. And the concept is very simple. I thought it explained the challenges of a change agent in a very simple, straightforward way. And it's called, the concept is called change algebra. And it says that person X, who works for organization Y, encountered obstacle A when creating change B. Person X can be anybody, you, me, somebody else. Organization Y could be any organization, a community, a church, a family group. Obstacle A could be any obstacle that you encounter, because change is difficult in many ways, so you will encounter obstacles. And when you're creating change B, and B can be any change that you wish to enact. So this explains the change process in a subtle and and very straightforward manner. So now let's talk about change agents in history. What do great change agents look like throughout history? And I found this quote particularly interesting by Harold Wilson. He who rejects change is the architect of decay. The only human institution which rejects progress is the cemetery. I thought that was kind of funny and very true. Uh, uh, Evolution is a true reflection of this. Those who failed to change throughout evolution died off in history. So that's a very strong message. So let's look at some important figures of change. Some of them very famous, some of them are not, but nonetheless all interesting. Start with Nelson Mandela. And I found a great quote by him. One of the things that I learned when I was negotiating was that until I changed myself, I could not change others. This tells me that to become an effective change agent, you have to be willing to look at yourself and to face the possibility that before you can enact change somewhere else, you may have to change something about yourself. So it's that reflection that is required to be able to be an effective change agent. Moving on to Mother Teresa. And I found another great quote: I alone cannot change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. This tells me to become a great change agent, as Mother Teresa was. You have to be committed, you have to be passionate, and you have to understand that you may not be able to enact great changes that have an impact on the entire planet, but you can enact meaningful change around you. And you have to have that passion to drive you, and you have to be relentless in your pursuit of change. And then finally, somebody who you probably never heard of, William Tyndale, is a person in history that, well, let's give it some context. Back many years ago, the Catholic Church wrote the Bible in Latin, and only priests who knew Latin could read the Bible. And whenever somebody needed to know what the Bible said, they would ask a priest, and the priest would say, the Bible says this. Nobody else knew how to read Latin, so they would just take them for their word. And this man, William Tyndale, challenged the church by translating the Bible from Latin into English, so that all people could read the Bible and understand it and study it. And his quote is, I perceive how that it was impossible to establish the lay people in any truth except the scripture, where I plainly laid before their eyes in their mother tongue. So to me, that says that part of being an effective change agent is being able to communicate a message. And this is the change that Mr. Tyndale enacted, is communicating that message. Now let's look at change agents in action. And I found this great video about this young lady who is a wonderful example of a change agent. And let's hear about her. Let's hear about her from her own words.
Hi, my name is Amanda, and I am a change agent. A change agent is somebody who catalyzes change within their family, their workplace, or their communities. I think that you can become a natural change agent if you discover what it is in your life that you're very passionate about. I am very passionate about creating change. I'm very passionate about solving environmental issues and about solving climate change. And I get to do that every single day. I am the environmental director For the town of Secaucus, it is a position that I was responsible for creating with the mayor and council. And I am a United Nations representative for a foundation that does post-conflict development work. I've been with them for 5 years. And so that means I get to travel the world once or twice a year to attend international conferences that are related to climate change and sustainability. I actually love getting up in the morning to go to work. It's not something I think that a lot of 27-year-olds can say. But I'm very privileged to be able to do what I do. And it's not just because I get to do what I love every day and make a difference, but also because I went through a great deal of challenges and struggles as a young Arab female to get to do what I'm doing today. Up until this point in my life, I feel that I have been telling my story and that it has been incomplete, and so today I want to tell my full story in hopes that I can inspire other young females, but also people in general, to really understand the importance of discovering who you are, being your true authentic self, and discovering what you're passionate about in your life. I am a young Jordanian American. Both of my parents were born and raised in Jordan. They come from a culture of very rich tradition. Their parents taught them a certain way and raised them a certain way, and their parents were raised that same way, and so on and so forth. So it was only natural for them to raise me in the same way as their first child. Some of the things that I was taught when I was a kid, especially looking back at it now, were very limited to young females. I'm sure that you may also agree. I was told things like women are not allowed to travel without a male companion, whether that be their brother or their husband. I was told that women are not allowed to move out of their parents' house if they weren't married yet. And I was told that if women do go to college, they should either study medicine or law. Otherwise, there's no point in getting an education. Wait home and wait for someone to ask you to get married. Hopefully, he'll be a doctor. And so, as a young teenager, I went through a lot of self-doubt and a lot of insecurities. It was very challenging for me to accept the fact that my destiny was already made up and I didn't have control over my own life. Until my second year of college, I actually came to Bergen Community College, when I was taking pre-med courses to become a dentist, and I was studying biology too. And I discovered something that made me really passionate in my life, and it changed everything for me. I was learning about how the health of the ecosystem can actually affect public health. And doing my own research, I learned that if the oceans die, then we die. And if we accelerate climate change and continue to burn fossil fuels, that we can wipe out coastal communities, increase disease and illness, and increase poverty and unemployment. I learned that if we wipe out a key species, it can actually affect human life. Something as small as a honeybee can kill us all if it goes. Learning these issues and seeing how much inaction was actually being taken about them, I thought, what could possibly be more important than stopping what I'm doing right now, changing my major to environmental science, and dedicate my life to environmental and social causes? And I did just that. I changed my major to environmental science, which I couldn't tell my family for a while. I also became an activist, which is something that my culture frowns upon. Good girls don't go out in the street and rally and march for a cause. But I also made a dedication to myself and a commitment to myself to find a career in sustainability, and if I couldn't find one, I would create one. In 2012, I got the first opportunity to travel as a youth delegate with the United Nations to go to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to attend a climate sustainable development conference where I can represent the youth of America. And wow, this was the most exciting thing at that point that has ever happened to me. But I knew that it was going to be a really significant challenge in my life. For me, it wasn't just about packing a bag and getting a visa and finding the cheapest flight. It was about convincing family members that weren't even living in my state to allow me to attend, being a young female who's not married and whose brother couldn't come with me to the conference. Today, I am really proud to say that some of my family members are actually very, very, very supportive of me and have changed and transformed. I never thought it could really happen. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't find what I was really, really passionate about. And I know it wouldn't have happened if I didn't get an education. And so I really want to convey the importance of educating women and how that can actually change her community and how that can change her family, but also speak to the importance of finding who it is that you are and being your true, authentic self and discovering what it is that you're passionate about in your life. I know that it is very difficult to go after your dreams and to dive into massive uncertainty, but I was able to create a career doing the things that I love and creating a positive change, and I know that every single one of you can do the same. And the really cool thing is that millennials are doing that all around the world. We're considered the entrepreneurial generation for a reason. Over half of us would prefer to buy products and services from companies that care about environmental and social causes. Most of us want to work for companies that do not violate human rights. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of businesses that do that, so we are creating our own businesses, we are creating our own organizations, we are creating our own positions within government and within business that speak to our values. Millennials are actually the largest generation on the planet right now, and we have the most purchasing power than any generation that exists today. So what does that tell me? That tells me that never before in American history has there been a better time to find or create a career that is going to do positive changes in the world. I am living proof that doing what makes you feel alive in your life is what will set you free. We are all different and unique. The world needs diversity, not just biodiversity, but the diversity of people and of ideas and opinions. I know that everyone here, if they really were their true authentic self, could make a huge difference on this planet. Be the change, become a change agent. Thank you.
I chose Amanda's video because I thought she was quite inspirational. Her story was very unique. I thought that the fact that she was a young lady that overcame a lot of adversity and was able to enact changes in her personal life that led to even more changes on her family, the people around her, and led her down the path that she dreamed about. I thought it was very important to see a change agent in action, to see how they enact these changes and how these results come about from these changes. So now let's talk about some important aspects of being a change agent. So being a change agent, it's not a simple thing. There are some things that you need to consider. It takes practice, it takes dedication, it takes a lot of drive, it takes a lot of commitment for you to be able to realize your changes. So let's look at some aspects that can help you become a better change agent. Number one, drive change, not people. If you try to change people, you will fail. You cannot change somebody who does not want to change. So focus your energy on the change itself, on what you're trying to change, what you're trying to drive, and people will come around and change on their own accord. So that is something that's very important. Don't waste your energy on trying to change people. Second, set concrete goals. Just like in the story of Who Moved My Cheese, Hall constantly visualized the cheese that he wanted to eat, that he wanted to find, and so must we visualize our goals to accomplish the change that we want to enact. So it's important not only for you but for the people around you that are participating in this change, so that they too can visualize this change and what it looks like, and how we know when we get there that we've accomplished this change. Next, map the landscape. Why? because change is going to be faced with resistance. You're going to have a lot of hems, like in the story of Who Moved My Cheese. You're going to have a lot of people who oppose your change, and you need to be aware of this so that you can take the appropriate action so as to ensure that your change takes place. You also need to be aware of the culture around you, how resistant is the culture around you to change, and how you can help them along and lead them along through the change. Next, challenge assumptions. One of the biggest enemies of change is we've always done it this way. And that is something you're going to find any place you try to implement change as a change agent. You have to challenge assumptions. Why have we always done it this way? Is there a better way to do it? And then sustain change. Change may take longer. Not all changes can be accomplished in a day or in a week or in a month. Some changes may take longer. If you falter, people around you will falter. The change will fall apart. You have to keep driving the change. You have to keep pushing forward. You have to make people believe that the change is good to be an effective change agent, because if you falter during the change, then your stance and your credibility as a change agent will also suffer. And finally, my references, all the works that I researched and I cited as part of this presentation. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you very much for your time.